Hey everyone, first and foremost, thanks for joining the webinar today. Before we dive into what beyond connectivity really means, we just want to say, thanks for taking the time today. I think today a lot of the information you're going to learn about is going to be focused around cybersecurity and what we're doing within the IoT business unit, specifically with our industrial Ethernet switches. So just think about the cybersecurity aspects of this, and then also how we're leveraging that infrastructure to give you more than just the simple connectivity. This is where you're going to be able to increase your visibility, your security, and your innovation. So a couple of the people that are going to be talking today, myself, Justin Ledman, I'm a product manager within the IoT BU business unit. I am part of the IE specific product management team. You're also going to hear from Albert there. He's one of the principal TMEs, so technical marketing engineers. Still the gray beard, you can't miss him on the show today. He'll be here. He's got a lot of good information. Along with him is some of his colleagues, Kaska and Krishna. They're also going to go through a couple software demos around what our security offerings look like and how they sit on top of the infrastructure that we're going to be talking about towards the end of today's conversation. So the agenda. We're going to go through a couple of different touch points. We're going to start out just kind of talking about what does industrial Ethernet do for business or customers today? How does it work? What is it for? And what are some of those challenges that we see in that OT space? Then we're going to be moving into what Koska is going to be talking about there. Agenda number one, we're going to talk a little bit about Cisco cybersecurity or cyber vision and how that really helps to open up a better line of sight or better visibility on the network. From there, Koska is going to transition over to Krishna, and then Krishna is going to talk about, secure equipment access, which you see there is zero trust access for OT assets. We're going to talk about how that is really leveraged in an OT space today. And then Albert's going to come together and talk about the convergence of IT and OT. And this is where Cisco really shines because we can go from the cloud down to operations on the plant floor, manufacturing floor. And you'll see where all of that architecture comes together and then how the security solutions sit on top of that as well to reinforce that security posture. And then we're going to wrap up a little bit with the IE portfolio, so the industrial Ethernet switching portfolio. And we're going to talk a little bit at a very high level, like what does the use case look like and what's the value of that converged architecture from IT to OT. So a couple things around OT space and these industries and why they're digitizing to accelerate that transformation within their businesses. They're doing this for three main areas. One, increased agility. You're going to see an ever-evolving standard or certifications or requirements coming forward, and the production units and the networks that support those OT environments need to be a little more agile to help to overcome and meet those requirements. Beyond that, they need to be able to optimize their processes and drive a higher level of efficiency for production. And then at the end, they're always looking for ways to maximize that revenue and their margins. So they're going to be reducing their costs. So throughout this conversation today, we're going to be talking about how can these solutions really help to push a lot of these three buckets: agility, efficiency, and help reduce cost. However, when you start looking at innovating or building out or scaling into the OT space or any network architecture for that matter, you're always going to be faced with three main challenges. One, ever-growing cybersecurity. And what happens here is as you build out the infrastructure, as you have more endpoints, that perimeter, that space that you need to safeguard continues to grow, and you have to fortify around those boundaries. So it's always a threat. It's always going to be there. So we're finding ways that we can leverage that architecture you're going to talk about, that you're going to hear from Koska or Krishna, about how we're overcoming that to help mitigate that. Number two, a byproduct of innovation is complexity. So as you start bringing in more activities, more operations, more solutions, and your network continues to grow out in that OT space, we need to find a way to reduce that complexity and simplify it. And this, again, you're going to hear Koska talk about this. You're going to hear about Krishna talk about this, how these solutions are simplified to help the user experience and to drive that efficiency we're looking for. And then that simplicity goes into the skills gap bucket there because you have IT and you have OT. They have different care abouts, different skill sets, different tools. So we're helping to bring that together into a converged environment where IT and OT can share similar tools, resources, investments. And again, this isn't specific to one vertical. This goes across multiple verticals depending on where the OT deployment is. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Casca now and let her start with that first CyberVision demo and kind of a little bit talking about how that solution really can sit on top of the network and help to leverage that infrastructure. Casca, over to you.
Thank you, Justin. And by the way, we are having a Slido polling right now. Please feel free to share with us your experience about network visibility. Okay, so when we have different network security solutions protecting network parameters, why do we still have a critical need for network visibility? When we think about manufacturing production line, machines are operating to chase orders to be delivered. A single second of network instability could stop the machines talking with each other, resulting unplanned operation downtime, so it could be a loss to productivity. Preventive maintenance is crucial, so we will be able to identify any vulnerable machines ahead of time, and a full network visibility should bring insights from both network and industrial process perspectives for preventive maintenance. For full network visibility, we need to know about what are the industrial machines and devices are connected to the network, their manufacturers, equipment models, hardware and software version, open protocols, and communication patterns. This level of details helps to identify vulnerabilities and severities so that we can prioritize action plans accordingly. And the network visibility should encompass the ability to monitor industrial processes, check device modifications, such that we are able to detect any abnormal activities, threat exposure, or any suspicious activities. In the event of an incident, loggings and evidence should be available for conducting a root cause analysis and responding effectively to the incident. The Cisco CyberVision solutions provides the full network visibility we need, and is very easy and scalable to deploy. It implements embedded network sensors in the Cisco IE switches and IR routers, performs bit packet inspection locally, and only lightweight metadata will be sent back to the data center for further analysis. It is scalable in the sense that for solutions that are lack of network sensors, like what we are seeing at the left, the same volume traffic has to be mirrored all the way back from the Purdue levels to the data centers, while the Cisco network sensors will only send limited amounts of network traffic. And if you already have the Cisco equipment in the network, there will be no additional hardware required to enable network visibility. So let's go to the demo. We would like to show you how does the Cisco CyberVision detect and identify industrial machines and devices, their communication protocols. So in our demo, we have an industrial PLCs, control units, a human machine interface interconnected by Cisco IE switches in a Profinet MRP ring. The benefits of this connection is, number one, the MRP ring supports network convergence within less than 1 second. Number two, the Cisco IE switches understands and supports industrial protocols such as Profinet, SIP Ethernet IP, Modbus, and number three, the network sensors are deployed locally. Now let's take a look at the demo. We are looking at the map view of the Cisco CyberVision Center. After it has connected sensor data throughout the network, it builds the map automatically. And now we are seeing how different industrial devices are connecting with each other, or even discover devices which we may not expect them connected to the network. We are seeing couple Siemens devices here, and a machine device as the human-machine interface in the network. So when we click at one of the industrial devices, we are able to see the first scene of the device in the network and also the last activity, which may help us to understand when did the device went offline and providing us hints about incidents retrospectively. We are also able to see the protocols the device is talking, and we are seeing Profinet in this case. We can also further explore the device properties, learning about the firmware version, software version, IP and MAC addresses, model name, serial number, vendor, and also the VLAN ID it is connected. With all this information, we are able to identify there are 29 vulnerabilities. When we click on the details, we are seeing all the security advisories we have received for this particular device. And then when we take an example, the device is seeing a vulnerabilities in memory buffer. And then what is the proposed solution? And the device is identified vulnerable because of a matching model reference and also the firmware version. And we also provide the links to the original source for further information. And at the right, we are also able to see the severity levels according to the CVSS score. We are also able to view the network activities of this particular device in the map view and also in the table view. When we click on the interconnecting links, we are able to see the Siemens PLC is actually talking with a Cisco IE switch with Profinet. We also provide reports such as inventory, activity, vulnerability, and PLC, and they are all downloadable in Excel and HTML formats. At the event views, we keep track of the network activities and events in the network so that we can have a check of the network events such as remote access and any suspicious network activities. Then when we receive so many different security advisory every day, the question is, do we really have the device in the network? At the search view, we can easily locate the inventory by searching a keyword. So say PLC, and we will be able to locate the inventory and IP address very easily. So the network visibility doesn't only provide us the insights, but also supplies access profiles and some information to the Cisco Identity Service Engine to control access. When we think about industrial machines are devices which typically do not respond to username and password challenges, the supply of asset information enables the Identity Service Engine to enforce micro and macro segmentation policies and control the access of the network. Therefore, the integrated Cisco solutions provides an end-to-end network security, protecting not only at the perimeter, but also within the network. And all this starts from network visibility. For now, I will hand over the time to Chrysler. He will be bringing us the same unified experience for secure equipment access. Chrysler, all over to you.
Okay, Oscar. All right. Before we proceed, we have the Slido number 2 here, the question. So please feel free to answer this question. This question is about how do you provide access, remote access to your vendors and contractors? Please give your valuable feedback so that it would help us understand the real dynamics of the field, right? All right, let's jump into the session. Okay, so Casca talked about visibility factor of the OT assets or the OT environment, like how visibility is very important to us. Like without knowing what is there in the network, you can't secure it, right? Without knowing what exactly is present in the network, you can't secure it. So that was the portion Casca was covering. And now we will see into the second part of the OT difficulties or the OT field, which is network access, providing remote access, right? So when it comes to maintenance on the OT network, you need to give a remote access to your third-party vendors so that they can come into your network, troubleshoot, or do some maintenance and stuffs like that, right? So let's go back a little bit to the history, right? Like how the network access is given today to your third-party vendors. It's all about VPN, right? So you say like you download this VPN software to your third-party vendor. He has to download the VPN client, and then your IT admin has to configure the VPN access rules, access list, and so on. So it's not an easy job, right? You know, like how it is. And like Justin covered in the first part of the session, like the needs of the IT as well as the OT is different. What OT wants is efficiency. They want to get done things done quick. They want to give access to your third-party vendors with little amount of information, like without knowing or without caring about what is the IP address, what is the protocol it uses, and so on. On the other hand, if you take IT, they are really scared about, I mean, they are really cared about cybersecurity. They are really scared about the malwares and viruses that can get into your network, and they want a little bit of hassle. Like they want a little bit of maintenance, right? They don't want to. They want to have a simple architecture, right? So basically, the need between the OT and IT is really different. So this open up the evolution from VPN to zero trust network access. So you would have heard about this zero trust network or zero trust a lot of times, right? So what does this zero trust network access really means? So this zero trust network access is basically built on these principles, what you see on the right, right? So least privilege access, what it means is like give the least or the no access, like zero access to your vendors or your third party people, right? Unless you know you give them the access, like don't give them full access. So what happens with the in case of VPN is you give them the access, they're able to they have the full access to your network, right? Once I have entry into your network, I can pretty much scan everything, know about all the assets and so on, right? So here in the ZTNA, it is otherwise. Start with least privilege access. Give them only the privilege what they need to have, right? So by doing so, what happens is all your assets are hidden from discovery. In case of VPN, what happens is I can just run a network scan and scan entire network and get to know what are all the devices. But that is not possible in ZTNA and no lateral movement possible. You would have heard about privilege escalation, right? It's like once you open up your network to a third party, he can easily find out the flaws and escalate himself and do whatever he needs, right? So no lateral movement is possible. And again, the most important is what happens when there is maintenance that is needed, right? It is an emergency situation. We tend to provide access. We want to provide access as soon as possible. What we do is we give them the access and we tend to forget about it, right? It's basically human nature to do mistakes. We forget about the access what we have given to them, and the third party vendor keeps the access forever. That doesn't happen with zero trust, right? In zero trust, we can restrict the access based on time and date, right? By doing all this, what you kind of do is you kind of attack, I mean, you kind of reduce your attack surface, right? The attack surface is reduced and it can be more flexible and responsible. That is why the move is from VPN to ZTNA today for all the OT assets, right? So if you talk about ZTNA, Cisco has a solution called SCA. You would have heard about this term as well, Secure Equipment Access. This SCA app or this SCA solution is basically built up on the principles of ZTNA, what we discussed earlier, right? So what it can help you is it can help you give the remote access using the same switch what you have in your network to provide the connectivity. You don't need an additional hardware. You don't need an additional firewall or something. It's the same switch or the same IE switch that you have on the network for switching the packets is going to provide the secure remote access as well. And it kind of avoids all the complexity of punching ACLs, providing the access rules, all that. And also the third party user, he doesn't need to care about the IP isolation as well, right? He can be on any IP and he can kind of reach into your network and do the troubleshooting. Let me quickly show you like how easy it is, right? All right. So what we have here is the SCA app. So what I'm going to do is Casco talked about the MRP networking, what she had in the network, right? So there is a machine, like there is a PLC and all the HMIs that is connected to this MRP ring. And there is a PC that is connected to this machine, to this PLC, right? From there, which you can monitor or do maintenance on those PLCs and HMIs. So what I'm going to do is, I'm sitting in India. I just clicked on this button, right? I just clicked on this RDP session, and there you go. I have access to this machine, whatever you see on the screen, right? Which is in San Jose, basically. So it's a matter of clicks, right? So from here now I can I can kind of start the demo. I mean, I can start the mission. Not just that, right? I do have access to all this Sematics, PLCs, all that Profinet devices. I can see what are the Profinet devices. I can configure them. I can get to know what are all is present in that. Right? It is pretty simple. Like it's in a matter of clicks, in a matter of few minutes, I was able to, not even minutes, right? In a matter of few seconds, I was able to get instant access to this network, which is sitting in San Jose. How easy it is, right? So coming back, so secure equipment access. So we talked about secure equipment access, how it is easy for the users, how it is safer for everyone as well. When you think about like specific access, specific user, and specific period of time, the one solution that needs to come into your mind is secure equipment access, right? So this can help you really provide access instantly, and that too with the specific time, specific user, and only the specific assets. That's what people care a lot today. I don't want to expose my network to easily to others, right? And also it doesn't care about all the IP address or whatever is present underneath, right? You can just launch in the ACA app and provide access to your third-party vendor. He can come in, do the troubleshooting without doing, like, for example, if in case without SEA app, if you think for troubleshooting, he has to take his car, he has to drive to your place and then do all the maintenance. You're gonna lose a lot of production during that time and a lot of dollars. With ACA, those kind of situations is not there anymore, right? It can save a lot of truck rolls. It can immediately bring back your network up and running, and it can increase your productivity as well. So that is all I had about SEA today. It's all yours now, Albert.
Okay, Krishna, thank you very much. So one of the things we wanted to sort of emphasize on is that both cybervision and secure equipment access are running applications that are being hosted on the network infrastructure that you already have. So this is the value that Cisco is bringing to industrial switching, is our ability to innovate and host security applications that enable security solutions without having to build or buy separate boxes or maintain infrastructure from other vendors. As you can see, we have another QR code or another Slido presentation. So my ask is that you answer the questions and pay attention at the same time. Double dip, if you will, double task. It's not multitasking. I'm asking you to parallel task. So we're going to talk a little bit about the building a unified network structure for security. And for this, I'm going to leverage or, sort of summarize the key points that we have in our validated designs for security. So we have validated designs for a wide variety of industrial networks: mining, oil and gas, electrical substations, manufacturing, which we reference a lot, and many more. Anything where there's not a carpeted space, we have an industrial design for, and we put security as an part of every industrial design, as well as having an industrial validated design just for security, which is referencing 62443. But I wanted to sort of bring us all back at a high level and think about while we have cybervision for visibility and secure equipment access for remote access, you're never really done building a network for security, right? The threats always evolve. Your ability to put in an infrastructure has to also always evolve. So when you're thinking about this, you may be finding like maybe you're going to get a ZTNA solution, but how does that ZTNA solution fit in with all of the other services that you need as part of building a security solution. But from a journey perspective, I don't know where you are in your network process or your security process, but you have to start, okay? You're never understanding, of course, that you never really reach your destination. For us, for Cisco, we say you need to put a firewall. If you have a production network, regardless of what type of production you're doing, we always recommend a firewall to separate like the enterprise space, the office space people from your production network. So put in a firewall. The next thing is protect yourself from the outside. So we have a remote security solution with secure equipment access. So this is the ZTNA portion. Protect yourself from remote users coming in, unwanted, if you will. And then also gain visibility into what you have. So this is like the second journey. Like Krishna stated, you can't secure what you can't see. And oftentimes we find when customers deploy CyberVision, they find that there's a lot more stuff out there than they thought they had. It's like for some reason, some of them are under the impression that all the Windows 95 machines have been removed from their network, only to find that they still have 10, 20 Windows 95 machines on the network. So it's not uncommon to find a lot of things that you didn't think you had that nobody even knew were there, but CyberVision is able to see everything. So you get this visibility into like, oh, I have all these vulnerabilities I didn't even know about. And the thing about CyberVision, it's always running. So as your network evolves, as you add more users, as you add more devices, CyberVision just continues to run and produce vulnerability reports for you. So on an ongoing basis, you get the visibility that you need. What are my security vulnerabilities? And also the nice thing about the reporting part of CyberVision is you get these quarterly reports or monthly reports, which you can feed up to your security officer, like your CISO. And so if you have a tool like CyberVision and you are getting visibility and you're trying to put actions in place to address security vulnerabilities, by getting regular reports, you can see that your vulnerabilities are actually decreasing, which sort of it shows to the CISO that the actions that the company is taking to reduce, cybersecurity threats is actually working, right? By getting reports that say it's working. So that's kind of a really nice aspect about CyberVision. I mean, CyberVision does a lot of stuff, and you can see how it pokes down into the communications between devices. But I think the ability to understand the vulnerabilities for you, the user, to identify high-risk items and low-risk items, and then to get reports on a regular basis showing that the vulnerabilities are actually decreasing because of actions that you're taking, I think that is a real key feature for CyberVision, and that's what a lot of customers really end up leaning on heavily. But the other thing that you get for CyberVision is you take the next step. Okay, now that you know what we have in our network, what devices are communicating with what's critical, what's not critical, now we can start to build and identify these zones and build zones and identify conduits. So I'm going to keep referring back to 62443. These conduits of communication for which we are going to allow the zones to communicate with other zones. And this is done with the Identity Services Engine. So the Identity Services Engine and CyberVision work together in that CyberVision is sending all of this detailed information up to the Identity Services Engine. Casca mentioned this in one of her slides. So the Identity Services Engine knows all the details about all the end devices that you have in your network and can identify them and associate them with zones that you can build into the Identity Services Engine that match what you have in CyberVision. So then as the device moves from one zone to another, or in CyberVision, you change its security profile, it's automatically reflected in the Identity Services Engine. This makes it really easy to sort of build policies that match or align with how the organization is actually building the communication and the security in the facility itself. And again, this is sort of always evolving. So it's a similar thing where CyberVision is always receiving information from the sensors that are running in the network and then always informing ICE, the Identity Services Engine. So policy is sort of constantly being manipulated or adjusted per the business need. And then the final thing is to go with like an incident response. This is the more mature organization where they have policies in place and understanding that things are constantly changing, that when there is finally a threat of some sort, they have an incident response plan and team. And this is what XDR is all about within Cisco, is helping you build how to investigate and respond to the security threats that will arise. Eventually, everyone's going to get some kind of security threat in some way, shape, or form. So how do you respond? How do you put a plan together to respond and investigate properly? And so this is the final phase. I mean, of course, you're never really done when it comes to cybersecurity. It's a journey that doesn't end. But when you can, as an organization, you can get to this level, now you can really isolate threats quickly, identify them, and react quickly to minimize business impact. So this is from Cisco's perspective, what we think we offer as a partnership is the ability to take products from a wide variety of areas and allow you to work with one partner to build a security solution. So we have the industrial switching and the industrial routing from which you can build your networking infrastructure. We have also the software solutions like remote access gateway, visibility, and the ability to do segmentation, all with the same vendor, right? So you're not trying to put together a solution that, you know, does visibility, does remote access, and then ultimately then how do I enforce policies from 3 different vendors. This is asking for trouble because you end up getting, like, you know, so if you're trying to do, you know, visibility with one vendor and security policies with another vendor and it doesn't work, I mean, who do you call, right? The vendors are always going to point at each other like this going, it's not me, it's him, right? He's doing it wrong. They're not implementing the standard correctly, or they claim to support this, but actually they don't support it. You know, and you, Mr. Customer, are stuck in the middle. So it's nice to have sort of when there's a problem, you know, one number to call, one account team to deal with, one vendor to partner with. And I think this is where Cisco shines in the ability to provide these kinds of key services in the networking infrastructure, allowing you to have a single vendor, you know, and a single product really to bring all your security solutions to bear. So I think this is key for us. This is how Cisco really shines. So I wanted to show a very simple network topology to sort of give you an idea of how bringing in cyber vision and visibility then allows you to build a security solution using Identity Services Engine. So it starts with the sensors that are running down in the access layer or in the Purdue level models like Purdue level 0, 1, and 2, and they're running at that lowest level. They're seeing all the east-west communication. One of the things for industrial networks we find is that most of the traffic doesn't leave like the zone layer. It's all what we call east-west traffic, and it's, you know, it's the PLC talking to the IO, communicating with the HMI, and a workstation to kind of manage all that. Very little, I say very little, but a small percentage of the traffic actually leaves the zone. And this differs a lot from like your traditional enterprise network. So for instance, if you refer to users that walk into the office with their phone or their laptop, almost all of their communication is north-south. They're communicating with applications that are running in the data center or the internet. It's all north-south. You know, one user on their laptop is not sending communications directly to another laptop in the same subnet. I mean, they just, even if they're doing chatting together, they're sitting right next to each other and chatting, it's going up to a WebEx or some other text-based application and then back down, right? So it's all north-south, and in industrial networks, it's mostly east-west. And so for us, we built a security framework around this, and again, in our validated design, takes into account how to just let this north-south traffic in these zones naturally flow. Like, this doesn't need to be secured, or it's too difficult to secure it. So let's just identify that using cyber vision, where these zones are. You can call them production lines or cells or zones. They use a lot of different terms depending upon the industry. let's just identify what those are. Let's assign them a security value, like in this case for Cisco, we use SGTs. Let's assign them a value. And then we can build policies saying, zone 1, SGT 11 is allowed to communicate with zone 2, SGT 12, because they're in the same line. And then you'll build a policy, and that will be pushed down to all of the industrial switches, which are all supporting what we call the security policy availability. So the ability to define zones allows you, and it's not the IT person defining the zones, right? It's the OT person. It's the person who understands the production lines, saying, these are how my devices are organized. This is how the zones work. This is how the production lines work. These are the cells that make up line 1, and these are the cells or zones that make up line 2. And now the security administrator can go in and say, okay, now I see how things are working, what's communicating, what's not communicating, build these policies, and then enforce policies like this. And I think it sort of starts with the visibility, and then from that, you can build it out. And it's a collaboration between IT and OT, sure, and that could be challenging in some organizations. But if OT can show the IT person who's going to manage the ICE, the Identity Services Engine, how to what things look like, what's real, what not to do, what to allow, because I can see Profinet, I can see Ethernet IP, I can see the Modbus traffic, I can see the ARPs, right? Allow these things to communicate so that there's no impact to my production while we're also implementing policies, right? So this is sort of key for us. And then lastly, one nice thing is that we want to simplify this. So we do have the Catalyst Center to manage all of this, at least from a security perspective, and to do managing the industrial network. Now, this is originally an enterprise tool, but it's being adopted to slowly support OT use cases. And OT can use this as well to manage the switches that they have in their industrialized networks, such as the IE switches that you saw there. So it's pretty easy to use. It solves a lot of key problems in terms of gaining visibility and compliance for the OT users to use. Things that a lot of other purpose-built sort of industrial networking switch things do not do. The other thing is that we see a lot of times with customers the aspect of how to build out a network. They are not networking professionals often. So how do you build out a network quickly without having to put network administrators, in the production facility? So for instance, if you're a mining company or you're oil and gas, your network administrators are sitting, nice and warm in their home office or in the corporate office. You don't want to have to send them out to the far reaches, where the mines are, where the oil and gas is, or where the substation is. How can they stay in their comfy office, be productive, and still roll these networks out in a timely fashion? I think this is where Catalyst Center shines, and it's from an OT environment. Catalyst Center, this is the #1 feature that customers really like, is the ability I can deploy what used to take me a day, maybe 2 to deploy a network infrastructure, I can do in an hour or 2. So it reduces the time more than 50% easily to deploy network infrastructure with, not having to put network administrators, on site. They can stay, in the comfort of their chair and build out these networks. And then again, Catalyst Center rather works with compliance. We talked about maintaining compliance. It's, compliance for us is about P-certs. So for instance, Cisco issues P-certs. If you're running Catalyst Center, you're able to identify which devices have software P-certs for them. And then you can just use Catalyst Center to take action to, upgrade software if you need to for P-certs. If there's been a change between the running configuration and the startup configuration, that's a compliance thing that Catalyst Center will also identify. I like to use the analogy, if it was working on Friday and you come in on Monday and it's not working, and then of course the network gets blamed because that's the black hole that nobody knows how it operates. So one thing you can do is you can go, okay, what changed over the weekend, and you can, the ability to see the difference between the running configuration and the startup configuration, just have it show it there. Okay, this is what changed, or this particular software, the network infrastructure, somebody did a software upgrade on one of the Catalyst switches that's running in the core, and all of a sudden things aren't working anymore. You can see that plainly. It just shows up. This changed over the weekend. And it's pretty easy to use. You don't have to be a network administrator to see that, something is out of compliance. So that's why we like to talk about this, like bringing IT, OT together, and Catalyst Center is a big thing that's helping us do that. The ease of use with the Catalyst Center and the features that it brings beyond just security for the OT user is key. And with that, that's my last comment on that. And I'm going to turn it over to JL, who has already grabbed the ball. Look at you, aggressive. Take it away, JL.
Thanks, Albert. I appreciate you. Trained me well, man. All right, so we've got a couple things. We're going to round up some stuff. We're going to throw a little bit more information in there for you. I know we're getting close to the end here, so just stay with us another 15, 20 minutes. We talked a little bit about, Casca talked about visibility and cyber vision, the insights it can provide to help you to build that security policy and that security posture that you want to have around your OT networks. Krishna, he highlighted a lot around secure equipment access, ZTNA. So you have that secure, I would say pipe into your OT network, depending on irrespective of where you are. So now I think what Albert brought up, and was a great segue into this, I don't even think we practiced this, Albert, was that convergence of IT and OT and how you can have a single point or single look and feel across the entire network. Again, from the cloud down to the operations floor. So when you start thinking about IT and enterprise on our enterprise side of the house, or our carpeted friends, and then you come over to the OT side where, it's more harsh. There's vibrations, there's new certifications, it's dusty, it's dirty, it's wet. You're still going to have that same user experience because we're taking iOS XE that we see on the enterprise side and we're bringing it over onto the industrial Ethernet or the OT space. And this is going to allow us to have the same command, same CLI. You can leverage those same tools. And then when you get on the industrial side, there's additional protocols. And then there's purpose built. There's ruggedization around this. So as a user on an IT-OT convergence model, those OT users, or let's say those IT users supporting the OT environments, they already know 90% of everything in that box. Because they're used to the commands, they're used to the tools that they're using on the IT side, like Albert was talking about Catalyst Center, bring it onto the OT side. So there's a lot of value there. So it helps to reduce that complexity when you start scaling it out. And Albert, one network architecture, you said, who are you going to call? I wanted to yell out Ghostbusters, call it a thing of the past. But here's who you're going to call is Cisco. Single point of contact, single model, single support. Beyond that, to help reduce that complexity, it's the same software on both sides of the house between IT and OT, or enterprise and industrial. Same with licensing models. Similar licensing models and the same licensing depending on where you are in the switches as well. So there's a lot of similarities there. So that helps to build that unified architecture, that unified solution from carpet out to the operation, cloud to the operation. So how are we doing this on the OT side of the house? How does industrial Ethernet at Cisco look? What is it? You can break it down into 4 main buckets. And spread across the screen right now are those. They're kind of segmented, and we're going to kind of touch on each of these. We got a couple minutes left, and I want to go through them a little bit. So starting on that far left, you see the DIN rail. This is the Catalyst, IE 31, 32, up to the 3400 series. You can think of these guys as the DIN rail switches. So you have a wall, you have a DIN rail, it's a bracket, it snaps on. Could be in a cabinet, could be under a table, could be in a box, it could be on the plant floor, it could be on the roadside. There's a lot of different use cases here in different verticals, so it's not just for one. Now, when you see these as well, you can do PoE, you can have data only, They're fixed models. There's also expansion modules on these. So that switch, it enables growth, future growth, if you start to scale out your network or you need more devices. So when you start thinking about specifically in this portfolio, there's 3 ways to break it down: speeds and feeds, feature set, and then port count. What do you need and how many of each? So this is going to help you to be able to kind of navigate this product family or this portfolio to where you are. With the DINROs, if you have 8 ports of copper to begin with, and let's say you need a couple more copper, or you need 4 pair PoE, or you need SFP connections, there's modules out there to expand that solution out to help form and meet those use cases. It helps with the agility, the adaptability of that deployment. Moving over to the industrial Ethernet rack mount. These are what you see, that standard 1U form factor, 19-inch rack. These are powerhouse switches. We offer data, we offer PoE, all fiber, all copper. One of the highlights here, besides GPS, GNSS, conformal coding, is the power budget, PoE power budget you can get with these. 720 watts, hot swappable dual power supplies, and we also offer stacking here. So you can get up to 144 logical ports together, or 144 ports logical switch using the backplane. So when we talk about versatility, for a disti or an IDF, layer switch, these guys really come into play. We see this where this could be a breakout for multiple fiber runs. Just again, depends on your architecture. You can sit down in the access layer too. You can run CV, like Cybervision and Costco was talking about, SEA, like Krishna was talking about on these guys. Same with the DINRO portfolio. So this is where we can really enforce that, beyond connectivity mindset, where you're actually leveraging that network to enhance your software needs, your security needs. And this is where we're able to do more with less. You don't need multiple devices. You don't need a physical firewall. In certain areas, depending on how you want to do this, we can segment a lot of that network right here on the rack mount or the DINRO, SGTs, set up zones. There's a lot of different activities that can be met, I should say, with these switches. Go to that third block there, the IP67 wall mount. These are, when you look at the DINRO, you see the 3400 series. This is the IP67 big brother of that. Same feature sets, same versatility, licensing, spec, what you need, but now this is in an IP67 waterproof solution. And we come out, these are M12 connectors, and it comes in 3 different flavors, depending on the port count you need, 8, 16, or 24. We see a lot of this, where there's moisture, condensation. Maybe it's outside, it's on a wall, it's up on a pole. There's a lot of different, again, use cases that this fits into. And then when you go to the far right, you see those circuit boards, those PCBA boards. This is the type of switching solution that we don't have a form factor that meets that need. And this is where you can take these specific PCBAs and put these into a custom form factor encasement if you need it. We see this a lot, maybe with vehicles or aircrafts, depending on what you want to use. So we have a lot of this in here where it gives you that flexibility to meet your demands or your use cases. Again, can't press enough this converged, architecture, IT to OT. Whether it's, OS, it's software, it's security, a lot of shared technologies to give you that full one single architecture, vendor solution. And that's by leveraging iOS XC. That's going to enable a lot of those tools and solution tools or software security tools. A lot of the investments or intellectual knowledge and training and skill set that you already have can be leveraged across on both sides, IT or OT. Catalyst Center, Albert did a fantastic job of kind of stepping through what that looks like. How does that play into this? And then advanced visibility and security, and this is more of a complementary aspect when you bring everything together. You have the built-in security functionality or features or safeguards that iOS delivers, but you also have Cybervision. You also can leverage ICE, so Identity Engine Services, and then we can use XDR as a whole. So there's a lot of enablement that the hardware brings beyond just connectivity. So you've heard me say this catchphrase, operations to the cloud, or cloud down to the operations. This is just a high level representation, kind of a quick takeaway slide of, what does it look like? How do we do it? Single source or single solution provider, who you're going to call? Cisco. So this is going to help to show you the step through of some of the value that this brings. Right off the bat, this is where we talk about IE switching. This is where it's for that mission critical, processes, environments. And that's where you're seeing from kind of like that IDF layer down, you'll start seeing that. This is that rugged, rough, harsh environments. But when you do that and you take a step down and you kind of look at the whole spectrum, now we have Cisco providing that integration from the cloud, data center down to operations. And this again is going to be a single solution provider. So then again, when you start looking, you take a step back. Okay, how are we doing this from a management perspective? How are we handling all this? That's where Catalyst Center comes in. It's going to help with the provision, the deployments. It's going to speed up your efficiency. It's going to give you more agility on how you want to handle or deploy your devices. Along with compliance, staying in compliance is a driving, ever evolving, goalpost. It keeps moving because it keeps evolving. And that's something that we're acutely aware of. And the tools provided or discussed today help to support that overarching objective. And then lastly, what does all of this bring together? What does it deliver to you as the user or the customer? And it's to help just to give you a smoother experience from start to finish. And this is where if your operations are stable, your operations are secure, you're fortified, it's going to deliver those key business, KPIs or results that you're seeking. Driving more efficiency, driving it safely, securely. This is going to help to give what the business needs to hit their goals as well. So again, from operations up to the cloud. All right, kind of wrangling it in here towards the end. Kind of doing a very quick recap. We talked about a couple slides ago. We talked about taking enterprise and bringing industrialization or industrial networks together and how they share a lot of that same ideology, same technology, and be able to innovate and push forward. Now, beyond that, let's look at it from a security perspective. We're taking what Costco is talking about, cyber vision, that visibility, understanding exactly what's on that network. Because in OT networks, you could have sensors, you could have endpoint devices in the tens of thousands. So it's very hard to know what's plugged in where. Albert's fantastic example about Windows 95, Windows 98, you realize there's 10 still out on the network. This is really going to help you to understand that and realize if that endpoint is actually a value, if there's a risk there, it's going to help you to categorize that where it needs to sit. Zero trust network access, ZTNA under secure equipment access. This is where you're able to really leverage that efficiency, that secure connectivity for remote support. We see a lot, you see on the side of the road, there's a cabinet, there's a problem with an endpoint on that physical switch. You can actually use ZTNA, under the SEA umbrella, remote in and help troubleshoot that problem so you can remediate the risk or the concern or fix the problem at hand much more efficiently. Industrial network segmentation. It's kind of been a glowing theme all the way through here. Albert mentioned 62443. I'm mentioning 62443. Segmentation is key here to help fortify your boundaries. And the tools that we've discussed today help enable that, help support that, and help you work within that to be efficient at your job as a network administrator or a deployment OT user, etc. And then kind of what Albert was talking about too, validated architectural designs. We call these CVDs, Cisco Validated Designs. Proven design concepts that help you to make a design considerations for your projects in your OT space. Mining, utilities, etc. We have all of these available. So it helps to give you proof of concept when you go into these discussions to help start planning for your OT environment in conjunction with an IT space and help to fortify and keep that safeguard boundaries around your security perimeter. Okay, that was a lot. I know Albert's probably thinking that as well. So to wrap up, tons of information. What do you do next? Where do you go? The nice thing is everything that was discussed today is available out there. Cisco.com, we can dive deeper into the IE switches, industrial Ethernet switches, data sheets, descriptions, examples, use cases, more specific details. We can go into kind of the threat defense, where we're talking more about that security offering or security portfolio and how it works from a converged architecture as well. IT, OT, what's the value, where's the benefits, open considerations, how you want to handle that or design your architecture. And then lastly, kind of the CVDs that I was just talking about on the previous slide. This is a lot of good information, quick reference to help you understand what that architecture would look like and what would be the idealistic design, at least to get started, if not to fully adopt, and help to identify which switches you need based on requirements, design considerations, resiliency, redundancy protocols, etc. So I think with that, I am happy to say we have made about the top of the hour here. I just want to say thank you from the team, from everyone at Cisco for participating, taking a chance, and really kind of doing a double click into some of our features. And hope to see you. There's obviously contact information there to reach out. We're here to help. So thank you for your time.